The new South Korean president has pledged to bring the nation together. What might we expect from him in terms of diplomacy? With world leaders converging on Beijing this weekend for a Belt and Road Forum, I talked with Sri Lanka's ambassador to China to find out about the benefits this island nation hopes to gain. And in the last of our series of the Belt and Road's Heartbeats, let's meet a businessman from Uruguay who imports beef directly from Uruguay to China. Welcome to the point, coming to you live from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. A new president for South Korea, and what does it mean for the Korean Peninsula? Speaking to his supporters, Moon Jae-in pledged to unify the nation. Some say, given Moon's stance of a more open policy towards the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, his presidency might also open a door for easing tensions on the Korean Peninsula. So what should be expected of this new president? Joining me today is Yat-Yang Kon, an associate professor from the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London. Welcome to the show, Professor Kun. Now, everybody is talking about the change Moon Jae-in could bring to the country's diplomacy. For instance, he talks about visiting Pyongyang if the conditions are right. He also was quoted as to have said that South Koreans should learn to say no to the United States. But is it too early to ask how much real change he can bring in?
Hello from London. Well, he has a very full in-tray. He was elected primarily on domestic issues in response to the previous government's misgovernance, corruption, etc. However, North Korea, the tension with North Korea is also a very, very important issue. I don't think we should expect too much progress too fast, because this is a very, very complicated issue. However, we can look to positive signals. He has a strong mandate from the election. He's elected by a young demographic, which is far less hawkish than the supporters of the Conservatives. Also, his party, the United Democratic Party, the party of former presidents Kim Dae-jung and No Moo-hyun, has a history of engagement with North Korea. Also, if we look at the go back 10 years under the previous period of Liberal administration, the Liberal administrations did succeed in pushing a reluctant United States under George W. Bush towards two tentative nuclear agreements with North Korea.
What about this thing that he said about the South Koreans should learn to say no to the United States? How should we look at that?
Well, South Korea's defense is very much dependent on the United States. It's grounded on its alliance with the United States. And I think what he is driving at is that the United States must recognize that South Korea also has its own interests, that the United States should not go ahead unilaterally with measures that endanger South Korea's interests. So he's treading a very, very fine line.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Moon said,
on the one hand,
yes. Now, Mr. Moon said in an interview that the deployment of THAAD last month lacked democratic procedures such as an environmental assessment and a public hearing, but he did not say the deployment should be cancelled. Is there really a possibility of him reversing the deployment of THAAD?
What he said was that he would put it to a vote in the National Assembly. It's very, very difficult for South Korea to reverse the deployment if the United States strongly insists. However, South Korea should be able to take some steps, some positive steps towards China to show that South Korea's future direction of policy will not be aimed against China. For example, progress in the inter-Korean relations. This would alleviate tensions with North Korea, the reasons for which have given justification to the deployment of THAAD. So I wouldn't expect THAAD to be reversed rapidly, but the case for THAAD could be gradually chipped away.
Finally, China welcomes his Moon Jae-in's election and hopes for a closer rapprochement with South Korea. However, the experience with the last leader, Park Geun-hye, is still fresh in our memory. She was very close to Beijing, despite the opposition from many in her country, but things almost soured overnight. Is there a danger that we are expecting too much from this new guy?
Well, President Park, I think, was sincere in wanting to improve relations with China. However, she was very much, her party was very much driven domestically by the Cold War, by the history of the Cold War. Very much supported by the older generation. By contrast, Moon Jae-in's support base, I would say, consists more of younger voters who are less driven by the Cold War demographic. So you don't have this problem of domestic politics, domestic anti-communism getting in the way of relations with China.
Thank you very much, Tat Young Kong, joining us from London, an associate professor at SOAS University of London. And here is my point to this story. Now, any head of state starts his or her term with the honeymoon period, when people hope for the best and give him the benefit of the doubt if things go wrong. However, as we have already seen with Trump, people's patience can wear thin pretty quickly. Now, China is hoping for the best, but also needs to be prepared for the worst. After all, for Moon Jae-in, the interests of South Korea will always come first, as they should do. On the THAAD issue, for instance, it might still be a done deal even after the democratic procedures he has called for. What does China do then? Could there be any compromise? These are still open to question. But with the openness that Moon Jae-in has shown so far, there is at least cause for optimism. Now to our next story. Sri Lanka sits on a strategically important transit point in the Indian Ocean. As a result, it is also a very important component of the Belt and Road Initiative. What do Sri Lankans expect to gain from this initiative, and how do they regard its future? I sat down earlier with the Sri Lankan ambassador to China, His Excellency Karunasena Kodituwaku. I began by asking him about the current state of bilateral ties.
Both countries trusted each other. There were no bilateral issues at any time during our last 65 years. So I can say it is a model partnership between a big country and a small country.
Let's not mention the size. All countries are equal on the international stage. But can you give us some perspectives, please, as to how important China is for Sri Lanka in terms of business and trade development, and how Sri Lanka is to China as well?
China is the now second largest economy in the world. Traditionally, we were targeting our export to the Europe and the United States. But now the growing market here in China is becoming very important. And more than our export, the more imports are coming from People's Republic of China to our country. It's a day by day, it's a growing. Sri Lanka, again, though I don't want to mention the size, but our economy is only $82 billion economy. But nevertheless, our trade turnover between our two countries are $4 billion. That is much in favor of the trade balances people for China. But the Chinese tourists who go to Sri Lanka, China's investment which come to Sri Lanka is balancing this trade gap to make it a win-win situation to both countries.
Although you keep mentioning the size of Sri Lanka, I have been to Sri Lanka, wonderful country, very hospitable people, so I had a very good impression of that country. Although the size of Sri Lanka maybe is much smaller compared to China, but strategically Sri Lanka is at a very important point. I mean, it's almost in the middle of the ancient maritime Silk Road linking Eurasian area, and is also very important on China's map of the 21st century maritime Silk Road. Some people, however, seem not to only grasp part of the concept. Some people say it's a set of values, some people say it's a symbol, other people say it's a tool of geopolitics. So besides infrastructure connectivity, which most people understand, I believe, by now, what is One Belt, One Road for you?
We have a very important role to play. Same time, we understand we would be not able to discharge our our responsibility to the international community without the cooperation of the rest of the world. Because we feel that being a non-aligned country and strategically located, we must use this opportunity for our prosperity, for the well-being of our people. Same time, we must cooperate with the rest of the world. Therefore, so far, whether we are friendly with India or whether we are friendly with the United States or whether we are friendly with rest of South Asia, and it has not affected to our relationship with China or Japan or Korea or the ASEAN countries.
Are you worried in the future? I mean, if you have a closer economic relationship as the One Belt, One Road goes further, do you see any problem down the line?
I do not think at all. We, as an independent country, even when we entered the Rice-Trub Agreement in 1952, some of the Western countries were not happy. But being an independent, sovereign country, our leaders took that decision, go into a trade agreement with China. So even in the future, we would be able to do so same thing, because our history is known to everybody. We have nothing to hide, because we don't have any political ambitions to govern the region or to make a big power. We know our size, we know our responsibilities, we know the present world order. So we have a limited role. That role, of course, while maintaining our sovereignty, our dignity, we are prepared to work with everybody within the region, outside the region.
I think China fully respects these rules. At the same time, Sri Lanka has expressed its goal of building itself into an economic hub of the Indian Ocean. What is the consideration behind this goal, and how do you think working with China along the One Belt, One Road initiative can help Sri Lanka achieve that goal?
Because our resources are limited. Even our manpower, total labor force is only about 8 million. So we would be not able to go into all the segments of economies. So we feel that our role would be to become a service and logistic hub in the Indian Ocean. Therefore, for the People's Republic of China, second largest economy in the world, they have a huge export volume, which will go to Europe, it will go to Africa, emerging Africa, even to our South Asia, our part of the world. Similarly, many imports are coming to China. China has helped us to build our infrastructure, the seaport and airport and even expressways. So when that newer country has assisted us to build our infrastructure, it is our duty to cooperate with you, to allow you to use those facilities for your gain.
China's investment in the Colombo port city, which was a major project, we understand that in 2015 it was suspended for the accused lack of transparency. We do not know the exact story there, but it resumed in 2016. How do you look at this process, and what lessons do you think can be drawn from there for both sides?
It's not from the Chinese investors' problem. The government which was in power at that time, this matter was raised in Parliament, requesting to table all the conditions and the future plans. Unfortunately, none of these conditions or the future plan for the port city were not announced. So people were wondering, not only within the Sri Lanka, even within the region, many were raising question. What is the envisaged target of this port city? Now, after that suspension, during that period, both parties sit together, they negotiated. Upon new government decided to make it a financial city, international financial city. Then to identify zone-wise what the amount of the land would be given to the investor, for the public utilities, for the financial center. Now everything has been transparently negotiated with both countries, with the blessings of the political leadership of both countries. Now everything is on plan. So we are very happy that if anybody to learn a lesson, any country, the lesson is whatever we do internationally, we have to make it very transparent.
Now, we are going to hold this One Belt, One Road Forum, which is a highlight of China's diplomacy this year. There are all kinds of discussions going on as to how to better promote this initiative so that really more countries will understand this initiative and think about joining this initiative. What do you think can be done in this regard so that really this initiative can be translated into sustainable action and bring deliverables to the people along these lines or routes?
This project so far known as a Chinese project. But I think from the May onwards, it will become a collective project. In fact, as I mentioned, Sri Lanka has played a very, I don't want to say the other countries are not so important, but Sri Lanka's strategic location has given a very significant role for us to make it a very effective transit point. Sri Lanka is prepared to do its job because we know that joining that initiative, we would be able to uplift our economy, we would be able to give a better living standard to our people.
That was Sri Lankan Ambassador to China, Ambassador Karuna Sena Kodituwaku. He highlighted the importance of the Belt and Road as being truly collaborative instead of just being a Chinese project. That's why it is vital that leaders from around the world are converging on Beijing to give their points of view during a summit this coming weekend. For the country that is Sri Lanka, that only recently ended a prolonged civil war, the Belt and Road could provide the much needed opportunity to achieve a long and lasting peace.
My name is Daniel from Uruguay. I've been here in China for almost 5 years doing the beef business. Coming from Uruguay, a country mostly known only for football, but with more than 100 years experience of beef production. I invite you to know a little bit more about Uruguayan beef, about my experience in China, and about Belt and Road. To know a little bit more about Uruguayan beef, about my story, and about Belt and Road. Welcome to The Point with Liu Xing.
You are the first person from Latin America that I'm interviewing since I came back to China, so I'm really interested in finding out what is your story in China. When did you come to China and what made you come to China?
Well, that's a good question. I arrived to China in 2013, beginning 2013. I arrived here, first of all, impressed about the culture. I wanted to learn more about Chinese culture. With this, I had my idea to start my business from beef from my country here. So I arrived to see what was going to happen. And in the worst of the cases, okay, I arrived to China, I learned about Chinese culture, and okay, I will get back home. But suddenly everything started working very, very fast.
You make it sound kind of magical. I'm sure on a daily basis it's twists and turns, I guess. What is the magic you find, or what is the key that you find in doing business here?
The key, I think the personal relations here are very, very important, you know. If you start knowing the people and you know what you are doing, you know, it will take you maybe a little bit more time, less time, but finally it will happen, you know. It's just focus on one point and focus on the relations with people, and things start happening slowly.
The relations with people, is that what you are seeing for the success of the Belt and Road Initiative as well?
Yeah.
What is the Belt and Road Initiative for you?
For me it's a very ambitious initiative that can change the politics and economics of the world, you know. We can see that crazy things are happening on the world nowadays, you know. We need something new happening. This initiative could change the whole view, and the big participants there on this story. You know, we can see China that is trying to lead this, showing the power and the position that they want to take on this.
How is that affecting your business? Your dream of bringing more quality beef to China, how does that affect your business?
I think that would be great. This kind of politics are always great. I tell you why. This will make economies, first of China, to grow faster than what happens today, you know. This will make a more wealthy economy, and when you have a more wealthy economy, the best thing that you want quality food for your people, for your sons, you know. This in relation to China, and also will create huge opportunities around the countries around China that are on this area of the Belt and Road, because they are all developing economies, you know. An economy to develop, you need technology, market, capital, infrastructure, and China has all of them, you know, so can help them to grow very fast. And I would love to see more countries with more wealthy economies.
What do people think about this Belt and Road Initiative in Uruguay or in Latin America? Is there much talk about it, or if not, is that a problem for you in trying to do more on the initiative?
Yes, of course. Let's be honest, for the regular people, you know, on Latin America, they don't talk much about this because they see it like very, very, very far away, and they have their own problems day to day, to be honest. But at a political level, yes, people are like having a look, putting an eye here to see how these things are going and waiting and looking for the opportunities. For example, the president of my country was here last year, had a meeting with Xi Jinping, saying that he was going to support this initiative of the Belt and Road.
In what way can Uruguay play in the Belt and Road Initiative besides benefiting from the increased business activity and, you know, need for food?
Yeah, well, Uruguay has a very clear politic about this. Uruguay is one of the most economies, the most regular economies, the more it has no political issues, you know, and it has a very clear economy where you can see if you want to invest, what will happen? There are not big changes. So
it's very stable, very predictable.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, the indexes show that, you know, so Uruguay is a very good country for investing. We are trying to use Uruguay as a window to go into Latin America, you know, with very clear rules, with very stable economics and very stable politics.
Chinese people have also been increasingly investing in Uruguay and doing trade with Uruguay. The latest statistics is China has become the #1 trading partner with Uruguay, even more than its neighbor of Brazil and Argentina. So where do you see the future going?
Well, the future, look, the ambassador of China in Uruguay gave an interview 2 days ago saying that the political and economic relation between China and Uruguay is in the best moment of history. This year, we are celebrating the 29th anniversary of politics and trade business between Uruguay and China. So the relation is getting better and better and better. Uruguay for China now is a strategic partner in Latin America. We have a long relation of commitment, both countries, where we are always opening doors to China to go into Uruguay. We could see, for example, now we have a lot of investments of Chinese companies in Uruguay, happened in the last 5 years. That was crazy in the past, thinking about receiving Chinese investors in Uruguay. But now we have like car factories from China, we have 2 slaughterhouses bought by a Chinese company.
Slaughterhouses?
Yes. They know what is good and they go for it, you know.
Okay.
And it happens to me in the daily days. Every day they asking me for investment possibilities of investing because we have natural resources there that is difficult to find nowadays.
How is this kind of investment viewed in Uruguay? And what benefits do you think it has brought to the Uruguayan economy and the people?
Yeah, well, they are very welcome. I tell you why. Because it's not that they just go and they make investments. They make investments, but they improve the technology, the infrastructure of the industry, you know, and that makes our industry to become better and better and better with investments and knowledge. We know that here in China, the knowledge about industry and about how to move an economy that you have, you know. So they are more than welcome, and the government is like making like big projects to receive Chinese investments in the future.
What is your dream in the next 5 or 10 years, and how do you plan to achieve that?
Well, in terms of business, my dream, let's say, we launched a new brand here, the brand Casti Beef, direct from Uruguay here in China. We are selling in different areas of the market, through e-commerce, through supermarkets. We are selling to restaurants, a local distribution here in China. My dream is to position the brand as the top quality beef brand here in China and teach Chinese population about the benefits of this product and how to use it.
Very interesting you mentioned using e-commerce to achieve your dream, and I really want to just ask more a little bit about that, because you're trying to use WeChat, which is the Chinese answer, let's say, to Twitter, but it's much bigger than Twitter. Yeah. So you're trying to use WeChat to sell beef. This is quite a new idea. How successful, how big it is for you?
Well, actually it started really well. We decided to start on the e-commerce basis because from my point of view and the point of view of my team, that is the way nowadays how the market in China works. You know, the young people, that they are the people more worried to get some foreign products and to learn about them, are using a lot of e-commerce. So we trust on these channels to sell our beef from this office, from this warehouse, to whole China without need to have shops all around China. I find this is amazing, and these things happen in China.
Yeah.
When I talk to my people in my country about this, they find this crazy.
Because you can't, basically I wouldn't think about buying beef on the internet, right? Yeah. Mostly I would go to a shop, go to a butcher shop and say I want this and that. And the model is working. It's working, yeah. Nowadays it's booming. The e-commerce for food is booming, and for imported food too. And the users of these channels, they are mainly young people between 25 and 40 years old that they learn. And through e-commerce I can communicate too. I can give information that we need that to teach the people about our product. So I find this perfect balance. Finally, if there is one thing you want to see improving, you want to see done better in doing business in China, or when it comes to the Belt and Road Initiative, what would it be? What would you want to have slightly better? Okay, I think we need to learn how to deal with the foreign suppliers, with the foreign countries, to make a more efficient way of doing business, you know, because the market here is huge and the time is very limited. So the more efficient, the better business you can have and the best deals you can get for me, for my customers, for the end users. I think that's the main point to work in the future, you know, just to be how to work the relations with all these countries that will be involved on the Belt and Road. And that is the last episode of our special series, The Belt and Road's Heartbeats. And that's all for this edition of The Point with me, Lu Xin. But don't miss our next two programs, which are special sofa talk discussions, which you have told us you really enjoy, which I'm pleased about as I love doing them. So don't miss them. By the way, don't forget to follow me on Twitter or visit our Facebook page using the handle The Point with LX. Download the application called CGTN Live to watch our show on your mobile devices, or go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow at the same time.